you ever heard of William Tyndale? William Tyndale was a brave reformer who died for his faith. He was a Bible translator, which was illegal at his time. He was a scholar and very smart, yet he chose to do God's work instead of the many other paths he could have chosen. During his college education, he learned Greek and Hebrew, the languages in which to read the Bible, but saw that many of the common people could not read it. So he decided to dedicate his life to making sure the common people could read the scripture in the language they could understand. Although his life had many difficulties, his response was not to give up, and his loyalty was unto death for the work of Christ. William Tyndale was born in Gloucestershire, England in 1494, 2 years after Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Although we do not know a lot about Tyndale's childhood, we do know that his parents were Richard and Tabitha Tyndale and were wealthy enough to send him to college. He attended Oxford University and earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1512 and his Master of Arts degree at age 21. The Master of Arts program allowed him to study theology, but the subject did not include the study of Scripture, which frustrated Tyndale. He read the Scriptures, and it drove him to want to translate the Bible into the common language so that every person could read it. During his life, William became fluent in the 8 languages of Greek, English, Latin, French, Hebrew, German, Italian, and Spanish. He was one smart cookie. Knowing the Bible was illegal to translate into English, William Tyndale moved to Germany and stayed in hiding to continue his great work without the church leaders' permission. In Germany, he partnered with a print shop to print several copies of the New Testament. These Bibles were smuggled onto ships in fruit baskets, bags of cotton, and many other clever ways. When the Bible got to England, they secretly spread throughout the common people, and many began to read. A priest criticized Tyndale's work, saying,
"We are better to be without God's laws than the Pope."
Tyndale's response was,
"If God spare my life in many years, I will cause a boy that driveth the plow to know more of the Scripture than you do."
During his time in Germany, William Tyndale's print shop was inspected by one of the Catholic Church leaders. The church leader took soldiers to raid the print shop and got the owner to spell out the name of William Tyndale. William heard the news from his friend Will Roy, and they fled to a ship. On that ship, William continued to work on translating the rest of the Bible, but was stopped short as the ship was sinking in a terrible storm. Tyndale and Roy clung to driftwood off the coast of Holland and watched the ship sink under the waves, along with all of Tyndale's translations. William had to start all over again, but that did not stop him. Once again, they reached a different part of Germany, and he went by the false name of Antonius Angelus. Back in England, the king sent for Tyndale, and William replied,
"If your majesty will allow the Bible to be made available for common people first, then I will gladly come and be at your service."
The king was furious and ordered that anyone caught with a Bible or a book from Tyndale be killed. Yikes! Many were killed because they saw the importance of teaching their children the Bible in English, and many risked their lives to read it themselves. During that time, there was a hunt for Tyndale. Many Catholic Church leaders and the government wanted him dead because he was spreading the gospel, and people were realizing that what the Catholic Church was teaching was wrong. The power of the Catholic Church was slipping away. The leaders thought killing William Tyndale would help them keep that control. All over Europe there was a broad Reformation happening, which started with Luther, and many people, including William, were carrying it out. The church leaders wanted him dead, so much so that they hired spies to find and kidnap him, one of whom was Henry Phillips. Henry Phillips acted as a kind, God-loving man, but was actually a poor man who was hunting William for money from the church leaders. William trusted Henry, and they became good, quote-unquote, friends. One day, Phillips invited William to his home for a meal. On his way there, they walked through an alley where soldiers were waiting to kidnap him. He was sent to prison in England before he was tried for his crimes, although he had broken no laws of the Lord. The church leader said,
Say that you are wrong to write the scriptures in English, and we will spare your life.
But William could not recant. He said,
I can only do what my conscience tells me.
Then you will burn!
Days later, on October 6, 1536, the Catholic Church leaders bound William to a wooden stake, strangled and choked him to death, and then burned his body. Before he died, his last prayer was,
Lord, open the King of England's eyes.
Now, almost 500 years later, the Bible has been affected phenomenally. William Tyndale translated the Bible so that all may read and so that all who read may believe. Remember the plowboy William talked about? 2 years after William Tyndale died, the Lord answered his prayer. The King of England allowed the Bible to be read commonly among the people in England. Now the plowboy was reading scripture, memorizing it, and truly knowing it more than the Catholic Church leaders. The scripture that we read today is almost entirely William Tyndale's work. How can we learn from William Tyndale's life? If we are Christians and we are dedicated to our faith, we can learn from William Tyndale. He was not afraid to die for his faith or for the works of God. Just like him, we can dedicate our lives so much so that it does not matter what we lose. It's all for the glory of God.